Welcome to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast with Ron and Kristin, where leadership meets entertainment. This podcast features stories with names and certain aspects that have been changed to keep submissions private. Enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the Dirty Side of Leadership podcast, where leadership meets entertainment. This is a podcast that doesn't sugarcoat the truth. I'm Kristin, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Ron Ward. Ron, how's it going?
Kristin, it is going wonderfully, and I'm so excited about this episode, as I am about every episode. But as you know, I traveled into Virginia. A couple of cool things have happened. I was calling some executives around the country, and I called this person, and the first thing she said was, "Oh, hey, Ron, I listen to your podcast all the time. You and Kristin do a great job." She knew your first name, which was really funny.
Yeah.
Then, and you may have seen my post of doing edge weapons with my sister in an elementary school. They'll probably come and arrest me. But I walked in the office. I was going to get a visitor pass. And the secretary goes, "Oh, hi, Ron. I listen to your podcast." So I just thought that was so cool.
It really is.
Two completely different areas. And also just really excited, Kristin, the coaching business and speaking business, we are slated for a really big spring, summer, and fall. Mm-hmm. And if we can help your business or your organization, we're easy to find. You can find us on social or go to Forward Operation. It's with the number 4, WARD, operations.com, and it's in the show notes. We would love to help you out.
Yes, I'm moderating a big event, a doctor's panel in a few weeks here. So yeah, we do a little bit of everything. So let us know what you need.
Yeah, if you need a moderator, we will send you Kristin.
Exactly. There's something about moderating that I just love.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So today we're diving into one of the biggest scams in modern politics, and that's the business of homelessness and the money pit that is illegal immigration. Now, this isn't just a failure of leadership. This is intentional mismanagement that is designed to benefit everyone except the people footing the bill, you, the taxpayer. And I want to just note that this episode is by no means directed towards those who have found themselves homeless. And we commend all of those churches and nonprofits who selflessly take care of these people. And as a matter of fact, Ron visited Skid Row in LA. He's going to tell us about that a little bit later, so stay tuned. But let's go ahead and start with the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why do elected officials do more for people who didn't elect them than for those who did? Why are Americans struggling with skyrocketing costs while billions of our tax dollars go to housing illegals and enabling the homelessness industry? You got to follow the money, and you're going to see exactly why. Let's get into it, Ron.
Yeah, let's do. So who's making money from these crises? And let me take one side note here and say that any company or organization, Chris and I have talked about gap analysis, but that's after something gets started. But anytime you're putting bids, quotes, you're accepting money, there's always an objective. And what you're supposed to look like is outcomes. In other words, in the next year, we want to have the homeless problem reduced to 20% over the next 12 months. That's an outcome. But as you can see, instead of having the reduction as an outcome, it just keeps increasing. So we're going to delve in and figure out why. So it's the same playbook leadership every time. They create a problem, they make sure it never gets solved, then funnel billions of tax dollars through shady nonprofits, bureaucratic black holes, and special interest groups that just happen to be run by their friends, family, or biggest donors. And that's a fact. And that's an objective that is easily researched.
Absolutely. You know, the worst part, they sell this to the public, to we, the public, as compassion. So how dare we speak out against it, right? So in reality, they are profiting off of suffering.
You know, Kristin, I've got a habit of warning drivers if they're listening, so you may want to pull over.
Yeah.
Here we go. The federal government spent $10.3 billion on homelessness assistance programs just this year. $10.3 billion. That's a 6% increase from last year. Remember what I said about outcomes? Yet homelessness has only gotten worse. Why? Because homelessness isn't a crisis to these people. It's a business.
It really is. And we've seen it firsthand. Look at California's Project Home Key. So they spent 3.5 billion converting hotels and motels. They're doing it here in Portland also into permanent housing. And what happened? These buildings turned into drug dens. And in some cases, they haven't housed a single homeless person. But the developers, they're laughing it all the way to the bank.
And Kristin, this is just a sad fact. One of my friends in the FBI, there's all the stats that the Bureau of Criminal Information, they keep all these stats. And he said that they literally would watch when you would put in housing areas and you congest people together, you could literally just watch the crime rise. It happens every time, unfortunately. And what about people who are truly in need? Families who lost their jobs, single mothers, people who just need a temporary safety net. They're being completely overlooked.
Exactly. It's because the system isn't built to help them. It's built to fund itself. And who actually steps in? It's not the government, but generally you're going to see churches, nonprofits, and volunteers.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that. And let's talk about one of the biggest disgraces, our veterans. The people who serve this country with honor are now sleeping under bridges while illegals get free housing, free health care, and endless resources. And I just don't understand that. The VA allocated only $3.2 billion to combat veteran homelessness this year, barely a fraction of what's going into illegal immigrants and bureaucratic homeless programs. Now, Kristin mentioned I had the opportunity. My daughter was doing mission work at the Dream Center in Los Angeles. So I went out and I was able to set it up so I could literally stay in the dorms and go out with a team. And I went to Skid Row. I love adventure and I wanted to see it. Kristin, I got off the van, or when we pulled in, as far as you could see, north, south, east, and west, there was nothing but homeless people. I mean, tarps and tents. And I remember I was expecting that, but it took me aback. It really did. So as I began, and by the way, these nonprofits that you mentioned and these churches, every day someone is in there feeding people, giving out food, getting them out supplies, sometimes medical resources. So when I went in, everyone has a story, but I was not only stunned, I was heartbroken. And there were a lot of these people who did not. Now, there's some people, they want to be there, but there's some people did not want to be there, but they just did not have the resources. They couldn't see themselves moving out of this camp. So there's a couple things in my mind. First, I'm wondering, when I began to ask a lot of questions, which I always do, I found out that every single day there is a church or nonprofit that comes in and feeds all of these people. And like I said, provides all the resources. So I started thinking, well, wait a minute. LA's getting all these grants. What are they doing with the money? They certainly aren't giving them. There were some temporary tents, but they weren't anything nice in that particular area. Now, I know they're doing the hotel motel thing, but guess what? Skid Row is just as big as ever. So I began to ask myself, what the heck is going on? I know money's being poured into this. Why are there this many homeless people? The other thing, as I said, is if I were governor, if I were mayor, I don't know the answer, but I would definitely get the smartest people all over the country and we would figure it out. I would definitely have that place cleaned out for sure. And there's ways to do it if you are doing it legally.
Yeah, that's a really interesting story, Ron. And as you were talking, I started thinking about the fact that like our church helps out a few nonprofits and we literally collect cans. So everyone turns in, there's like a QR code on giant bags they give out at Sunday service. And we put all of our cans in there. And well, I don't know what it is in South Carolina. It's 10 cents a can here in Oregon. What do you guys get?
It definitely cheaper than that, but
yeah, because I thought ours were kind of
higher there.
One of the highest. But we pay for it on the front end. Like when we buy sparkling water, we have to pay a can deposit in the first place. So, but anyhow, so our church is, 10 cents at a time, each can worth 10 cents. You think about like just that piddly amount of money, but they're still doing it. And a lot of people are, we bring it and dump the cans and hope that they've got $50 out of it, right? But then you think about how much the government is receiving and doing very little with it. And so it's just such a stark comparison. And, talking about the politicians, some of these same politicians that will stand in front of a microphone, they'll talk about how much they support the troops, and then they turn around and fund sanctuary cities instead. I know Portland is a sanctuary city, but the entire state of Oregon is a sanctuary state. So where's the outrage? Where's the accountability?
Yeah, exactly. And Kristin, probably there's some people who have bought into that narrative, may have already turned us off. But if you're still listening, you need to pay close attention of anything you're putting money towards. It's just common sense. And maybe you've been duped. Maybe it's not the help that you think it is, because you can, if you pull on people's heartstrings, then you can get their purse strings. And that's exactly what we believe is happening. So, and what about all the money going to illegals instead of citizens?
And that's where this gets really disgusting. So while American families struggle, the government is spending billions on illegal immigrants. And the Department of Health and Human Services has funneled $22.6 billion into they call it migrant housing and healthcare and welfare programs. $22.6 billion.
And literally, this is not an exaggeration, states are going bankrupt funding this insanity, and then they cry for help from the federal government, and the federal government's going bankrupt. I hope that's turning around. But listen at these stats. Arizona spent $3.2 billion a year on services for illegal immigrants. Pennsylvania spent $1.64 billion. Meanwhile, American families are drowning in debt. They can't buy groceries. Veterans are sleeping under bridge. Folks, we should all be outraged about this.
Yeah, we should be. And, back to sanctuary cities, New York City, Chicago, and here in Portland, it is a free for all. There are open air drug markets, rising crime, homelessness at record heights. And it's really all because these leaders refuse to enforce the law.
Yeah, and let's not forget how much federal and state funds these sanctuary cities are draining. They demand more taxpayer money every year, yet nothing improves for actual citizens. Also, don't forget when President Xi from China visited San Francisco in April last year, within a week, there were no homeless. It was the greatest magic trick I've ever seen since I've been alive. It was just amazing. And they're back.
Yeah. Where do you think they put them?
I've often wondered, I'm going to call Governor Newsom and ask him, how'd you do it? How
was it like some mobile home? I don't know, giant containers. I don't know what happened, but it was definitely a veneer. And because they don't want to fix the problem. They want to keep the crisis alive because, again, it justifies more spending.
Yeah, and spending equals power. The more they can allocate to these programs, the more they can distribute to their political allies. It's a business, folks.
Yeah, and that's why the cycle never ends. I mean, look at the Biden administration. They were telling us, invest more, yet homelessness and illegal immigration got worse. So why? Because it's not about solutions. It's back to the word control.
Yep. I said before, outcomes is what you're supposed to look at. That's a gloomy one for sure. So this is definitely what poor leadership looks like. Prioritizing those who don't contribute over the hardworking citizens who do. It's theft, plain and simple.
Yeah, and this is exactly why elections matter. If you keep voting for these career politicians, don't be shocked when they keep screwing you over. Leaders with actual integrity who put their voters first are rare. Sad to say, but they are rare on both sides.
And people listen to this podcast know that Kristin and I lean conservative, but I will tell you, there are some people on both sides that I think have their hands dirty on this. And I would vote in a heartbeat if I were in a smaller area for someone who actually wants to take on this crisis and do it ethically. So here are a few takeaways. And I'll tell you what, Kristin, why don't we just alternate these?
Yeah, sure.
One of the takeaways, and this is all leadership takeaways, follow the money. If your tax dollars aren't benefiting you, someone else is getting rich.
Yes, they are. And demand, accountability. Call out politicians who cater to illegals and the homelessness industrial complex instead of fixing the problems.
And again, we care for people. Support local nonprofits and churches. They are the ones that are actually helping the truly needy. not the government.
Yeah, absolutely. Stop supporting weak leaders who pander instead of leading.
And this is a big one. Fight for our veterans. If there's taxpayer money available, they should be the first in line, not last.
Yeah, that one, I really don't understand what's going on there. We need to stop allowing sanctuary cities to drain taxpayer dollars for policies that serve criminals and illegal immigrants over law-abiding Americans.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And Chris and I have even talked offline that, when a mayor or governor refuses to obey the law, the federal laws, true leadership says that, if you're breaking the law, you get arrested. So this thing could get ugly before it looks good, but we have to stick with our values and recognize what's actually going on behind the scenes of this, as you called it, this industrial complex. This, it was interesting. We talk about the military industrial complex, but this has become one as well.
It really has. And a lot of people that don't live in a blue state, they don't understand at what level. But here, even in the Portland area, I'm aware of 3 different hotels that have been completely turned into housing for illegals, right? And that was paid for by us, the taxpayer. But I'll have to tell you, I live in a different county. I don't live in Multnomah County, which is where Portland is. And here in Clackamas County, where I live, I don't know who made this happen, but I didn't vote for it. We have to pay taxes towards Portland's homeless problem.
Well, of course you do.
Insane. It's a different county. So our leaders failed us here in Clackamas County by getting in bed with somebody. And now we're taking care of a problem that's not even in our own county. We choose to not live in that county for a reason, right? So it affects everybody.
Oh, I got to take a deep breath, Anna. All right, everyone.
Take us home, Ron.
Yeah. We hope your blood pressure is, coming back down.
And I told people everything we put out is digestible.
Yeah.
This one, hey, we try to do everything with a smile, so it's not too angry, but it's to bring you to your feet in action.
No, it really is. We're all about taking action. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe, leave a review. And one of the greatest things you can do is just tell someone about it. I was with someone the other day, and they said, I have no idea how to listen to a podcast. I've been wanting to listen. I said, give me your phone.
Nice.
So I went on and I wrote a review. I was like, that Ron guy is amazing. Kristin's okay.
You probably did. It's hysterical. Oh my gosh.
I definitely showed, I did subscribe because he said, hey, I want to start listening to him. I said, well, I'll subscribe for you and you can do that. So
yeah,
anyway.
That's fantastic. That's the way to do it. That's that guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, I got us one more person. We only need 10 million more. Okay. We're going to be back next time with more raw, unfiltered leadership insights. I guarantee you this, there's probably no other podcast, a leadership podcast that does what we do. And we really appreciate you all who have invested with us and you're going on this journey with us. It means a lot. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, Ron, I didn't ask for Ron's permission before I did this, but I told my Instagram subscribers. So I have followers and then I have, some people that actually subscribe and they pay for extra content monthly. But I told them if they sent me a good topic that they could have that topic discussed by the two of us. So
do I get any of the money?
I'll make sure you approve.
She's going to write me a check.
I don't know about that, but
I knew it. See, follow the money, people. Follow the money.
Follow the money.
All right. Be the leader you're meant to be.
We'll see you next week.
The Dirty Side of Leadership podcast is brought to you by Forward Operations. If you'd like to book Ron or Kristin for speaking events, training, or executive coaching, visit forwardoperations.com. Be the leader you're meant to be.